A sampling of opinions on the streets of Lagos regarding Nigeria's fuel shortages. Moving on now, a group of 45 organizations is urging the Obama administration to establish an inclusive peace process for Darfur. This is at a time when the U.S. Special Envoy to Sudan, Scott Gresham, is on a second visit to Sudan. We are joined now by VOA State Department correspondent David Gollust to talk about that trip. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
Now, let's start. Who is Mr. Gresham going to meet in Sudan, and what are some of the issues that are going to be discussed this time around?
Well, Gresham has began his talks in Khartoum actually on Thursday. Met with a whole range of officials, not President Bashir, but he did meet with, for instance, Salva Kiir, the vice president, and also the nominal head of the southern Sudan government. And one thing that Gresham is involved in is trying to help lay groundwork for the elections that Sudan is supposed to have next year. They're supposed to have presidential legislative elections, and then the following year, of course, under the North-South Peace Accord, we have the referendum on whether southern Sudan will remain part of Sudan. And Scott Gresham, among other things, is pressing the Sudanese authorities to pass legislation this year to free up the media, to reform election rules, and to try to pave the way for a truly democratic election next year. And then, of course, the key is the 2011 referendum.
And we know that there's a situation of the border between Sudan and Chad where rebels are attacking from Sudan. Is he going to address that? Will he visit that area of Sudan?
Well, actually, he has already been quite involved in that. Early this week, he was in Doha, where Sudan and Chad reached an agreement that was supposed to end this border fighting. Unfortunately, thus far, it hasn't. The United States basically contends that Chad and Sudan are waging what's described here as a proxy war with rebel groups. The United States would like to see that cease. Worth noting that Thursday, the State Department issued a public call for an end to these hostilities. And my understanding is that the UN Security Council, at least in informal consultations, is going to take up this matter today.
Now, very briefly, David, we know that John Holmes, the UN humanitarian chief, is also visiting Sudan. What are some of the issues he's addressing?
Well, he has been mainly involved in trying to get humanitarian relief organizations back into Darfur. Apparently, there's some success. The humanitarian minister of Sudan said on Thursday, after meeting with Holmes and with Scott Gresham, that they would allow the United Nations agencies to expand relief operations in Darfur, and also that new relief agencies could come into Darfur. I think, as you'll recall, the Sudanese government expelled 13 humanitarian groups in March when President Bashir was faced with that order.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much. That is David Gollust, Voice of America's State Department correspondent.